Okay, so this is a video I didn't really ever plan on making, like particularly at the beginning of treatment anyway. I have been kind of planning it over the last little while, but when I started my orthodontic treatment, I almost didn't want to talk about it. I just kind of wanted it to go away. So I didn't really plan on making any videos, and especially not posting any videos, but here we are. I noticed over my time looking up different things about my appliance and braces and all of the other things that are out there for orthodontics, I realized there really wasn't anything, well, there wasn't nothing, but there wasn't that much about my appliance, which, as you can probably gather by the title, is the Carriere Motion Appliance. There was one other person that I found who talked about the appliance and was like kind of giving their experience, but they didn't provide the level of information that I was kind of interested in. It wasn't that I didn't know anything, I just like to see what other people say. And I didn't really have that opportunity. So I want to kind of split this video up into 3 different sections. The first one being kind of what the appliance does and how it works and what it looks like and all that good stuff. And then I'll go into like my personal experiences and what I have seen and felt and whatever. And then we'll go into like some helpful tips and tricks at the end. The first thing, like I said, we're going to talk about what the appliance does. So the appliance, there are 2 different types. I have the class 2, not the class 3, so I can't talk about the class 3. But for the class 2, it's to fix overbites, and it like adjusts your teeth so your teeth are sitting in alignment at the back, particularly. Basically how it works is you have these 2 metal bars on, it's bonded to your canine tooth, and then I think it's your first molar. I don't really know specifically, but one of your molars, the back there, it bonds there, and it basically rotates that back molar, and then your other teeth kind of will move with it, and it creates some space in the front, and it gets your bite set up so that it's sitting where it's supposed to be, which is really good. And it's kind of the gist of what I know, what it does and how it works. So we can talk a little bit about what it looks like. Obviously, I mentioned you have the 2 bars. On the canine teeth, you have little hooks, and then you have a bracket on a lower molar that also has a hook, and then you hook up elastics, and then to keep your teeth from shifting, you'll have something to kind of keep those lower teeth from moving. I have a clear plastic retainer. The main thing about the way it works is that you basically just have to make sure you're changing your elastics out 3 times to 4 times a day. My orthodontist said 3 is good, but some other people have said, you know, 4 is also pretty good. You don't want to be changing your elastics too much, because if you're constantly, like every 5 minutes you're changing them, you're not really getting much out of having your elastics on. You want to have them on for a few hours. I usually keep mine in around 6 hours. I don't really time it that way. It's just my orthodontist basically said put them on in the morning, you change them out, and then like around lunchtime and then bedtime. I kind of shift that lunchtime one to when I get home. So that's when I change them out. I get home, I eat really quick, and then I change my elastics, and then I don't change them again until I go to sleep. So that's kind of my routine. Sometimes if I'm having like a really late night, I'll change them again before bed because I know I'll sleep in the next day. So that way I'm not wearing them past when I should be, I guess. I found it's not too difficult to maintain. Like, I didn't have any drawbacks from wearing my elastics a little longer than I expected. Sometimes you forget, and it never really made a difference as long as you're wearing them. So that was what I noticed anyway. And then beyond that, you have to clean your retainer, obviously. So I used to clean it every time I took it out and I ate and I put it back in. I would clean it first, but I kind of slipped. But my orthodontist actually told me no one ever keeps their retainer that clean. So apparently I'm doing pretty good. I basically I brush it with warm water. I don't use any like clear rinses or anything. I don't soak in anything. I don't put any toothpaste on it, just warm water, and brush it with an old toothbrush that I don't use anymore. And that does the trick. I do have some damage on my retainer just because I'm a jaw clincher, so there's some dents, but otherwise my retainer's pretty clean. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the very first day I had my appliance and kind of like the rest of treatment as a whole. So the very first day, I would say, was rough in the sense that I was grumpy. So that probably heightened everything. They kind of sat me down, talked me through what they were going to do, and then they started putting everything in. And the appliance itself, getting bonded and everything, doesn't hurt. The main thing that they said was, you know, your mouth will feel very bulky. It'll feel like there's too much going on in your mouth, and that was true. It does go away to an extent. I do still feel like the metal bars at the top a little bit, mostly because I have sores, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, but you know, it feels normal. It doesn't, like, I notice it, but it doesn't hurt. It's not that uncomfortable. I don't really notice it that much, so it's not bad. You do get used to it after at least a week, somewhere in between a week to 2 weeks. The main thing that I was prepared for it in the sense that when it happened, I remember them warning me about it, but I didn't really think about it up until it happened. I was in the grocery store after my appointment, and I was getting foods that were soft because I knew that I wouldn't really be able to eat a lot of hard foods, and I hadn't gone to the grocery store in a while, so my options were kind of like slim. So I decided, well, I'll go on and I'll pick up some more different things that I can have. And I'm in the middle of the grocery store, I'm about halfway through, and I realize I'm getting this massive headache. It just kind of washes all over my head, and I felt like I was gonna throw up. I had such a bad headache. But I still had to, like, finish up in the grocery store. I couldn't just ditch. I needed to pay for my food, and I wasn't done buying things, and so and then I still had to drive home. But a mistake that I made that you should not make is I ate crackers. I was like rationalizing in the sense that, well, I'm not going to be able to eat a lot of hard foods for a few days, so I should capitalize on all my hard foods right now. Don't do that. That's probably why my teeth got so sore, because not everyone experiences as much pain as I did, and it's not abnormal, obviously, but I feel like if I didn't do that, the pain would have been better. And I also didn't take any painkillers until the pain hit, which is not what you're supposed to do. Everyone always tells you to make sure that you take painkillers beforehand so that it kind of takes the edge off before you even get hit with it. Yeah, that was it for the first day. My teeth didn't really hurt until like maybe the end of the day. I don't really remember too much, which is probably why I should have made this video a lot earlier. And my teeth got sore the second day. The second and third day were the worst in terms of pain, and things kind of settled down as time went on. And I will say now that it is probably going to be likely that you have pain in your lower teeth, even though they're not moving, because the elastics are still pulling on them, but the retainer is holding them back. So they are still going to be sore in that sense because of the pressure. Not nearly as sore, obviously, but they won't feel good, usually, from, again, my experience. I don't really have anyone else's experience to go off of for the most part, so I was told by my orthodontist that's totally normal. And then the main thing I would say over the course of my treatment that really stuck out was the elastics themselves. They rub up against the inside of, like, my cheeks really, really badly, and I don't know if that's just because I have a small mouth. That may be where most of my problems come from. And the problem with this is when you get sores, you can't really put wax on it. Like, that's not going to help you because it won't stick to anything. It may stick to the bracket on the bottom with the hooks. The wax won't stick to the elastics. I tried. It doesn't work. Maybe it'll work for you, but it did not work for me. It just didn't work. I had sores continually for the first 2 months until I went to my orthodontist and complained. And she gave me an antiseptic rinse, and when I ran out of that, I just bought one from the drugstore. It was some Colgate, basically any kind of mouth rinse that says it's for like mouth sores or it's an antiseptic rinse. That will really help, which is a tip that I already threw in there. But yeah, the sores, I still get them. I kind of had a few weeks where I didn't, and they subsided, and now I've got one like right here, right where my hook is, and it's just not good. So the schedule of when you're changing from like the less strong elastics, the weaker ones, up to the stronger ones, is probably different for everyone. I wouldn't really know, but in my case, halfway through, I switched from Force 1, which is the weaker ones, to Force 2, which are the stronger ones. So it's really tricky, especially going from Force 1 to Force 2. They're harder to pull apart. So the first time I went to put them on, I couldn't pull them far enough to get them to the next hook. I just couldn't hook them. I tried like 8 times, and I remember getting my orthodontist to like try to help me because I just couldn't do it. So that's a whole other journey. It's basically what I would assume is similar to getting your braces tightened. You're just getting tighter elastics. And they don't change anything with the appliance, it's just the elastics. So overall, I would say the major issue beyond the sores is the retainer. Now, anyone who has Invisalign can probably attest to this, but having clear plastic retainers in your mouth all day, every day, except when you eat, is a pain in the ass. You have to constantly take it out when you wanna have like a cup of tea, you have to take it out. And you can't really just like eat on the go very well because, again, you have to take it out. You can't eat or drink in the car. You know, I would go and get coffee with my boyfriend and I'd have to just stare at it. Like I wasn't even the one driving. I would just have to sit there and stare at my coffee until I could get home. The main issue with eating not at home is now you have to brush your teeth before it goes back in. You don't always, I will say I have gotten lazy and I don't always brush my teeth, but you should be, because if it gets stuck, like if it's something that gets stuck in your molars when you eat it, like bread is a really good example, so I'm probably going to rely on that one. I'm trying to think of other ones, like anything like crackers, that kind of stuff. When you put your retainer back on, it feels horrible. The second I snapped my retainer in after eating crackers for the first time was the worst feeling. It doesn't hurt. It just feels so gross. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like you can feel the difference between your retainer hitting the top of your teeth and that layer. It just feels weird and I don't like it. So sometimes what I do is I actually just pick out the food out of my teeth, which is pretty gross as well. But sometimes you can't brush your teeth and you gotta do what you gotta do. Sometimes you're in a restaurant and you don't have a toothbrush on you, so I like sit there and I'll like pick it out with my tongue, and then in between courses I'll like put my stuff back in, because like another thing about it is that you have to take it out when you eat, which makes me nervous. It shouldn't, because it doesn't really affect like your treatment overall. Like if you take it out for an hour and eat, it's not really a big deal, but especially in the beginning I got really nervous. I was like, I'm not getting the most out of my treatment because it comes off. That's not true. You know, if you're taking it off for like 6 hours at a time, then you're gonna not see nearly as good results. But you know, it just made me nervous. Those are little things that you forget, and you know, snacking is a big thing that you can't really do. You can in the sense that no one's going to stop you. It's not allowed, but it is super difficult. You basically have to schedule when you're going to eat, and it makes you want to eat more at once than in smaller increments like I normally would. So for some people it's not really that big of a deal, but I am a snacker. I like to eat one tortilla chip every 5 minutes over the course of an entire day. That is not something you can do with this appliance or with Invisalign. You know, those are two similarities that you would have. So if that doesn't really bother you, that won't be an issue, but that was like the main thing that I complained about the entire time I've had this appliance, is that I have to constantly take out my retainer. And the very first time I went to take my retainer out, I couldn't do it. I did eventually, obviously, but I panicked. I didn't get it out. I just remember trying to take it out and going, well, I guess I'm never taking my elastics off. I'm never eating again. It's over. But I did get it off. There's a trick to it. You kind of pull from like the left side and then the right side and then the middle was my trick. And now I feel like my retainer is also kind of less stiff. Like it doesn't work any less, but it just doesn't feel like it's stuck to my teeth anymore. Maybe that's just because I'm used to it, I don't know. But now I pull at the left and then straight from the middle, because it almost can come out just from the left, but if you pull too hard it may break, so that's why I still pull from the middle. But I pop it out of the left side and then just pull it out, and it comes out really easily now. And you will obviously have a lisp from the get-go. I did for like a week. It actually feels weird when you take your retainer out and you have your teeth touched together. I'm not used to my teeth touching. So I think that kind of sums up my overall experience with the appliance. It's been pretty positive in the sense that the results have been great. It is annoying in the way that, you know, all orthodontic anything is annoying. So I'm going to move along to some tips. One of them is kind of a silly tip, because this is just a general life tip, I suppose, but staying hydrated is really important with this appliance, because I am super dehydrated all the time. I do not drink enough water. And that comes with a whole slew of other issues. But one of them is that my mouth is chronically dry. And that is awful. Like, you know, your mouth gets a little bit dry when you go to sleep, but mine gets extremely like desert dry when I wake up in the morning, and so I have to make sure I'm constantly staying hydrated, which is kind of a pain because now I have to pee all the time. But if I don't, I get even more sores in my mouth, which is why I think later on in treatment the sores kind of weren't as bad, because I was drinking a lot more water. I always had a water bottle on me just to make sure that my mouth didn't completely fall apart from the elastics. Still first thing in the morning though, the elastics are like stuck to my cheek. I have to drink a little bit of water and like puff my cheeks out so they can kind of So another tip is just kind of to follow your orthodontist's instructions. You know, it's really kind of a given, but the more you follow the instructions, the better outcome you have. And I can kind of attest to that. I followed the rules pretty closely. I cleaned my teeth extremely well. My orthodontist always compliments on how clean I keep my teeth and my retainer and all of that stuff. The better that you follow the rules, the better your teeth are gonna, you know, turn out. And the more quickly they'll move and all that stuff, because the rules are kind of there for your benefit. And if you don't follow them, whatever, that's your choice. But I follow them pretty closely. I did not follow them to a T closer to the end, just because I've been kind of over having this appliance for like a month. So with this appliance, there are certain guidelines to foods you shouldn't be eating and foods that you should be careful of. They specifically outlined Starburst and Skittles for some reason, not just like hard or chewy candy. They were like Starburst and Skittles are a no-go. So I haven't touched them. I don't know if you actually can get away with them. As long as you're cleaning your teeth, you can probably get away with a few things. But definitely like the hard and chewy candy, I would say, is probably a good guideline to stick to, unless you're very, very careful. Keeping elastics on you is a good idea. I did not really do this until the very, very end, and then I lost a whole freaking bag of them. So, whatever. But keeping elastics on you is very handy because sometimes they break. I only had one break, and it was when I switched up to the first two elastics. And I yawned one time, and I think they were at the end of the day, but I was at home, thankfully, when it happened. So when I yawned, my elastic snapped, and I was just like confused. It didn't really hurt. I was just kind of dumbfounded for a second. I didn't know what was going on. So yeah, keeping elastics on you is a really good idea, especially if you're like eating in a restaurant or eating out and you're not at home when you're eating, where you keep all of your elastics. I never had this happen, but you can lose them in a restaurant, and then if you lose one, you can't put it back on until you get home, and who knows when that's going to be, depending on what kind of life you live. Usually for me, I don't go anywhere. So it's not that big of a deal for me, but definitely keep them on you. And if you don't want to bring a whole bag and lose them like I did, just bring like an extra pair or two in like a plastic bag and keep it in your bag or your purse or whatever. So I think that kind of covers the whole experience and what I've learned and what it's all about. So I'm really excited to get my appliance off. I'm actually really excited that I don't have to wear my retainer all the time anymore, because it means I can eat whenever I want. But I am excited to move along with my treatment and actually starting to see some changes in my front teeth, because everything's been in the back so far. So it'll be really nice to see that. I don't really plan on uploading them, but I am going to be making some videos about my braces, just for my personal experience. I just want to be able to look back on it later and see what I look like and how I felt, what I was talking about, what I was feeling, you know, all that good stuff. I don't really plan on uploading them unless there's, for some reason, a major demand. I hope this was helpful to somebody, because I was really interested in knowing these things going into the appliance, and now that I'm coming away from it, it's really nice that I'm able to share some information. So thanks for watching.